They taught you to fear the wisdom in your own body, to call it witchcraft. They taught you to doubt the questions in your own mind, to call it heresy. It was the most successful act of psychological warfare in history. They didn't just hide the truth, they made us forget we even knew it. The peasant's mark was the last whisper of this resistance, a quiet promise that a thought, once known, can never be truly erased. It just goes dormant, waiting in the soil, in the stories, and in the blood. This is the blueprint. It never went away. It's a forbidden rumor, a dangerous hope carried by hushed voices in dark corners. They call it the Silent College. They say these forgotten scholars don't just have prayers or philosophies. They have a secret, a forbidden agricultural technology, something salvaged from a lost age that could break the famines forever. A method to make the fields bloom in endless rain, to make the soil yield a harvest so bountiful it would drown the lords in the very grain they hoard. But to use it is heresy. To even speak of it is to risk the pyre. The light scatters across the cavern, illuminating multi-storied dwellings carved directly into the rock face, complete with windows and balconies overlooking the central square. It's a subterranean Venice, a city of stone and secrets. There are workshops where you can hear the gentle tap of a silversmith's hammer, dormitories from which a low hum of chanting emanates, and what looks like a great hall, its entrance framed by intricate carvings. You lean close and whisper instructions, techniques that contradict everything the men of science and God have told her. You tell her how to breathe, how to move, how to work with her body, not as a vessel for sin, but as a source of immense power. The maids watch you with wide, terrified eyes. They have seen what happens to women who know too much. This is the secret they will burn you for. Not for the herbs, not for the whispers, but for what your success implies. A list of names and dates, and next to each name, a sum of money. You realize with a cold dread that tastes like metal in your mouth that you are looking at a secret ledger, a record of bribes paid by a powerful bishop decades ago to conceal a terrible truth. And as you translate the final symbol, the name of the man who received the largest payment locks into place. It's the family name of the Inquisitor who is, at this very moment, warming his hands by the fire of burning books. A second, jagged line has been brutally hacked across it, fresh enough that you can smell the sap from the wounded wood. It's not in the code, it's not a direction. It is a message screaming into the void, a warning. They know you're here. And the secret you carry, the one you're risking everything to deliver, is not just about a planned revolt. It's the location of the one thing that proves the lost city was real. The one artifact the crown and the church would burn the world to possess. This is a rebellion written in sap and root. But as you stare at the elegant, forbidden script, you realize the book has one more secret. You turn the next page, and it's not a plant. It's a diagram of the heavens. It shows the stars, the planets, the moon, but it is dangerously, terrifyingly wrong. Or rather, it is dangerously, terrifyingly right. The diagram doesn't show the earth at the center of God's creation. It shows the sun. You are holding two heresies in your hands. The horrifying and beautiful truth is that the city was the knowledge itself, a decentralized library of human wisdom that lived in the songs of midwives, the hands of farmers, and the minds of common people. It was a way of living that threatened the new world of control, They didn't burn a city. They launched a war against a state of mind. The Dark Ages were not an accident. They were an induced coma. For their system to work, you had to be disconnected from your own power. You had to be made ignorant, fearful, dependent. It's the same engineered scarcity that keeps diamonds priceless. The same artificial inflation that puts a simple home out of reach for millions. By controlling the supply of a basic necessity, food, shelter, security, a small, powerful elite exerts absolute power over the majority. They create the crisis, then offer themselves as the only salvation. You are living inside a business model, and your life is the currency. The metallic taste of fear in your mouth is the price of their profit. But a whisper has begun to snake through the desperate quiet of the villages. It speaks of a different way. It isn't the flickering, greasy light of a torch. It's clean, pure, and silver. You reach the bottom of the stairs and step out, and your breath catches in your throat. It's not a cave, it's a city square. You are standing in a cavern so vast, the ceiling is lost in soft shadow. Immense pillars of raw rock, left by the builders, rise like the legs of forgotten gods. But the marvel is the light. Dozens of wide shafts, polished to a mirror sheen, funnel daylight down from the surface, disguised as wells or hollow trees. They call it witchcraft. It is simply paying attention. You've seen this before, this curse of power. The price of keeping land and titles locked within a handful of families. They call it purity of blood. You see it for what it is, a river turning in on itself, growing stagnant and sick. You apply the poultice to her swollen belly. It is warm and smells of earth and rain. The lady flinches, not from the heat, but from the hope. Hope is a more dangerous thing than despair in a world like this. You close your eyes, shutting out the squalor of your world, and step into the silent, sunlit halls of your own mind. You walk past the memory of Aristotle's Ethics, stored as a statue of a blind woman balancing scales. You pass the herbal remedies of Ibn Sina, each plant growing in a perfect imaginary garden. You arrive at a new, empty chamber and begin to decode the page, placing each piece of forbidden knowledge into its place. The code unfolds. It is not a complex scientific formula. It is not a forgotten magical incantation. It is a list, the knowledge of the lost city, the memory of a time before the Lord's, before the church, before the tides that bleed you and your family dry. You push yourself off the bridge post, your path now clear. The safe house is just ahead, across the river. But as you step into the moonlight, your eyes catch another mark on the next post, one you almost missed. It's the same straight line, the symbol for sanctuary. But this one is different. The ingredients make your blood run cold. Henbane, the poison of witches. Mandrake, whose root is said to scream like a man when pulled from the earth. And the milky tears of the poppy, the flower of endless sleep. Separately, they are the devil's tools, but together, the formula promises a deep, dreamless slumber. A concoction so potent, so merciful, it could erase the Church's entire doctrine of redemptive suffering. It could save millions of lives, but it would cost the institution its most powerful weapon, fear. Your breath catches in your throat. This is more than just medicine. You stand in the silence, the surgeon's cellar and the starlight a lifetime ago. The peasant's mark on your memory is no longer a map to a place, but a key to a thought. And the truth, when it finally breaks the surface of your mind, is both more beautiful and more horrifying than any city of gold. The lost city was never made of stone. That was the lie they let fester, a brilliant misdirection for fools and kings. There is no Atlantis to find, no El Dorado to plunder. The smell of rot from your fields is made infinitely more bitter by the knowledge that abundance is just a few hundred yards away, locked behind a door you can never open. A starving population is a docile one. A man too weak to lift a pitchfork in the field is too weak to lift it against his master. Desperation makes a person dependent, grateful for the smallest scrap thrown from the very hand that holds back the feast. It's the perfect system of control. This isn't just history. This is the medieval blueprint for 1,000 modern cruelties. While the church built cathedrals to preach obedience to the sky, the college dug cathedrals into the earth to preserve the truths the sky-gazers wanted to burn. In Cappadocia, they housed 20,000 souls, safe from marauding armies. Newly discovered radar surveys in northern France hint at complexes just as vast, networks of resistance and survival so perfectly hidden, we are only now finding their ghosts. They buried this secret so deeply, we forgot to look down. After a descent that feels like an eternity, a soft light begins to bloom below. You know the truth is in her jawline, the same delicate, too sharp angle as her husband's, who is also her first cousin. Your fingers, gnarled as ancient roots, work a paste of willow bark and comfrey in a small stone bowl. You can hear the soft, wet, rhythmic grind of the pestle, an ASMR quality sound that is your only prayer in this chamber of fear. The physician calls your herbs devil's folly. You call it memory, the knowledge passed down from your mother and her mother before her, a wisdom that predates the stone of this very castle. A true history of society, of power, of bloodlines, and of the church's own dark beginnings. You slip away from the fire, the stench of burning wisdom clinging to your clothes. You find a damp alley, the air thick with the smell of refuse and cold stone. Your fingers, trembling, pull out the coded page. The ASMR quality scrape of the rough parchment against your tunic is the only sound. In the faint moonlight, the symbols look like nothing. A madman's scratches. But to you, they are a map. They call a meticulously planned popular protest a disorganized riot. The cameras focus on one broken window to ignore the 1,000 people handing out water, the medics treating the injured, the complex communication networks keeping everyone safe. Because a smart, organized, and unified populace is the one thing power has always feared, whether that power wears a crown or a corporate logo. The greatest weapon of the silent college wasn't the scythe, it was the story, the forbidden knowledge they fought to preserve. That a soldier dying of a gangrenous wound is purging his sins with agony. This book, this single, beautiful, terrifying book, says that is a lie. It offers power over your own body, your own mind. A power that is supposed to belong only to God, administered through his priests. This is the medieval equivalent of burying studies that prove a cheap, generic drug is more effective than a patented blockbuster. You turn a page, and the dry parchment crackles with the sound of breaking rules. Your eyes fall on a recipe. The title is Draconis Angelitus, Dragon's Breath, and the crusade to extinguish the light inside of you has just arrived at your door. Enough to feed 3 counties. Recently analyzed shipping manifests from this very time prove his story true. Nobles were exporting a fortune in grain, while their own people turn to eating dogs, cats, and the bark from trees. You look out the crude opening that serves as your window, up the muddy hill toward the Lord's manor. His stone keep is a dark silhouette against the bruised sky, but you know what's inside it. You know his granary is full. The stone walls are thick, the doors barred, the contents protected by men with steel and leather. Not a sound, but a vibration, a low, deep hum that seems to travel through the stone itself into the soles of your feet. It's the planet's own pulse. You descend, one hand tracing the damp, living wall, the other holding the raw terror in your chest. Historians will dismiss these places as root cellars, mine shafts, natural caves. It's a convenient, comfortable lie that keeps the two-dimensional map intact. But 99% of people will never know the truth. These were arteries, gateways to the real centers of knowledge, the hidden cities of the silent college. You can smell the sharp tang of the lady's terror, a scent like ozone and sweat, layered over the lavender her maids have scattered to mask the stench of a birth gone wrong. Her name is Eleanor. She is 17, and this is her third attempt to produce an heir. The last two are buried in the chapel yard, their tiny graves marked with stones that bear no names. The physician blamed a misalignment of the humors, a weakness in her spirit. It's the direct ancestor of modern digital archivists, racing to copy websites and data before a repressive regime can pull the plug and rewrite reality. It is the eternal fight to save knowledge from those who see it as a threat. But what was in these books that was so dangerous? It wasn't just science, or poetry, or philosophy. The assumption that this was a war on progress is the greatest lie of all. The real secret, the forbidden knowledge they are trying to erase, is a history. They shared agricultural innovations the guilds tried to suppress, taught herbal remedies the church called witchcraft, and operated a silent railroad for men and women accused of heresy, spiriting them away to hidden communities before the Inquisitors' fires could be lit. This is why newly analyzed court records show such a shocking level of coordination in the uprisings, identical demands appearing in villages a week's ride apart. Simultaneous attacks on tax collectors in different shires. It wasn't spontaneous. It had a nervous system, a guiding hand. It's the same tactic of delegitimization you see today. You see recipes for antiseptics that could stop a wound from turning black with rot, anesthetics that could grant a man the mercy of sleep while a surgeon saws through his bone. These are things the church condemns as sorcery, witchcraft, meant to cheat God of his rightful toll of pain. Your heart is a frantic drum against your ribs. This is the truth that power cannot tolerate. Not a lie, but a truth it can't control. They teach that suffering is holy, a path to God, that a screaming mother in childbirth is earning her place in heaven. It was something you build, both inside your own soul and in the community of others who see the divine spark in you. It's not a place you find, but a truth you awaken to. The song ends, not on a final triumphant note, but in a choked, sudden silence. Every face in the firelight freezes. In the absolute quiet of the forest, you hear it, the metallic shink of a sword being drawn from its scabbard. From the darkness beyond the torchlight, a single dog begins to bark, a frantic, high-pitched warning. Someone has found you. 99% of people in your village believe God has abandoned them. They pray, they fast, they beg for mercy from a sky that only gives them more rain. What they don't know, What the priests will never tell them is that God hasn't abandoned them. Their Lord has. Just last week, a cousin who works the docks in Bristol came through, his face grim. He spoke in whispers of ships, heavy in the water, their hulls full to the brim with English wheat and barley. Sailing for Flanders, sailing for France, sailing for profit. The numbers, he said, were staggering. You take the first step down, and the heavy stone slab grinds shut above you, sealing you in absolute, suffocating darkness. The warmth is gone. The world is gone. Panic claws at your throat. Your hand flies out, seeking a wall. The only sound is the wet rasp of your own fingernails scraping against the rough-hewn rock, a desperate, frantic metronome in the pitch black. This is a tomb, a mistake. But then, the guide's voice, calm and close, echoes in the small space. Breathe. Listen. You force the air into your lungs, and you hear it. The royal physician has already left, his pronouncements of God's will hanging in the air like stale incense. But what 99% of people will never know is that the greatest threat to a noble bloodline isn't God. It is the bloodline itself. The secret crisis of the powerful is not written in holy books, but in the fragile bodies of their stillborn children. You are in the room now. The damp cold seeps through the thick wool of your cloak. A permanent resident of these stone walls. The page hidden against your skin is a key, a cipher that unlocks a new wing of your own mental archive. The church can burn paper. They cannot burn a memory. You hear a friar near the fire mutter in frustration, his words an accidental confirmation of your mission, unknowingly quoting a sealed church record. It is a heresy that leaves no book to burn, for it lives in the minds of the wicked. He is talking about you. This is an intellectual guerrilla war. This simple grammar of survival is an entire infrastructure of rebellion, humming right under the noses of the lords and priests. You see it on a tavern door and know the innkeeper will hide you in the cellar. You see it on a milestone and know which path is free of patrols. It wasn't just a rebellion of pitchforks and torches. It was a rebellion of information, a forbidden economy of knowledge, trust, and mutual survival. This is dark, embossed with symbols that are not crosses. You pull it free. The sound of old leather scraping against oak echoes in the small chamber. The title is etched in faded silver, Liber Herbarum Occultus, the secret book of herbs. You open it. The parchment isn't filled with prayers. It's filled with diagrams of plants, their roots and flowers drawn with an artist's precision. But next to them are not psalms, but formulas, precise, chemical instructions that feel like a blasphemy to even read. It's the voice that whispers you're not thin enough, not rich enough, not happy enough, but that you can buy your way to completeness. It's the engine of modern consumerism, which constantly manufactures a sense of inadequacy that only a purchase can cure. A void that was carved into our culture by men who understood that a population that believes itself to be broken will always be easy to control. The people of this silent college, these singers in the woods, they knew better. They knew the lost city the inquisitors were hunting for wasn't a fortress hidden in the Pyrenees. It's a smell you can almost taste, a promise of a harvest that will never come. Your belly is a hollow, aching cavern. It has been for weeks. You watch your youngest child, Elara, by the weak light of a single tallow lamp. Her breath is a shallow, rasping sound. a noise so delicate you find yourself holding your own breath to hear it. Her skin is stretched tight over her small bones, her eyes too large for her face. This is not the unavoidable tragedy you've been told it is. This is a weapon, your guide, a man whose face is a roadmap of scars, nods once. He pulls a loose stone from the hearth, reaches into the suffocating heat, and twists something you cannot see. With a groan of protesting stone, a section of the floor beneath the oven sinks into the earth, revealing a set of narrow, winding stairs. He gestures for you to go first. The air that rises to meet you is ancient and cold. It smells of wet stone and something else, a clean, metallic stillness, like the air after a lightning strike. He is offering you a choice that is not a choice. He is offering you God's protection in exchange for your freedom. He is sanctifying your chains. But they didn't just want to control who you could love or what you could own. Their plan was far more intimate, far more chilling. They sought to control the very essence of your family line through a dark medical secret that would turn a woman's body into the final, bloody lock on the family vault. It's on the library you carry inside your skull. For every book that burns, a secret effort is made to save its soul. You are an acolyte of the Silent College, an order that builds libraries not of stone and wood, but of flesh and bone. Using the ancient art of memory, you have been trained to turn your own mind into a cathedral, a memory palace with 1,000 rooms, where entire books are stored, not as words, but as images, symbols, and stories. They want you to believe your ancestors were ignorant, superstitious animals, lashing out in blind, chaotic rage during the Great Revolts. It's a comforting lie for those who write the histories. The truth is far more dangerous. You know that a curved line means the healer, someone who can stitch a wound without asking questions or using leeches. A single dot, almost invisible, points the way to a hidden cache of food, smoked fish or dried apples buried beneath a particular stone in a forgotten wall. 99% of people, even the kings and lords who fund this place, believe your life is one of pious, boring transcription, copying the Word of God, letter by painstaking letter, in a scriptorium filled with silent, holy men. They're wrong. This monastery isn't just a house of God. It's a laboratory, a secret vault, preserving knowledge the world has been ordered to forget. Your fingers, stained with ink from a day of copying psalms, tremble as you touch the spine of a book. It's not bound in the simple calfskin of the Bibles upstairs. This belief that you are already whole, that you need no intermediary, no priest, no pope to connect with God, was so threatening it had to be met with the first officially sanctioned genocide in Europe. The history books call it the Albigensian Crusade. But it wasn't a war against a different religion. It was a war against an idea, the idea that you are enough. It's the most successful conspiracy in human history, an engine of control so powerful it still runs our world. The history books tell you the Great Famine was an act of God, a cruel whim of nature. The truth is, it was an act of calculation, written in the ink of shipping manifests they never thought you'd see. The rain doesn't stop. It's a thin, cold misery that has been weeping from a gray sky for months. It seeps through the damp thatch of your hut, each drop making a soft, wet sound as it hits the packed earth floor. The air is thick with the smell of mildew and the sour, sweet scent of rot from the fields. They teach you that the medieval world was a flat map of castles and fields. They want you to see the serf in the mud and the king in the sky, and nothing in between. This is the greatest lie they ever told, because the real history, the one that changes everything, wasn't built up, it was built down. The heat from the baker's oven presses against your back, a familiar, comforting weight. Yeast and sweat and scorched flour fill the air. But you're not here for bread, an institution imposing its will on the most intimate parts of your life, not for salvation, but for control. They are rewriting the definition of love to mean obedience, redefining family to mean ownership. You look at the man holding your hand, the life you had planned just moments ago, and see it dissolving into mist. If you walk away, you are not just unmarried. You are sinners. Your children will be bastards, with no right to inherit the very ground beneath your feet. Your life together becomes a crime. The priest's shadow covers you completely now. They tell you the Library of Alexandria was a tragic, one-time loss. 99% of people believe this lie. The truth is, you are witnessing the systematic destruction of 100 smaller Alexandrias, a deliberate war against memory, and you are a soldier in the resistance. Your heart hammers against your ribs, a frantic drumbeat against the single coded page tucked inside your wool tunic. It feels impossibly loud, a confession in the suffocating silence of the horrified crowd. As the Inquisitor drones on about heresy and the purification of the written word, your mind is not on his sermon, a door that will lock behind you. This is the language of the silent college, the secret map carved into the very skin of the world the nobility thinks they own. What 99% of historians refuse to even discuss is that the peasant underground wasn't just organized. It was a parallel civilization, literate in a language of symbols, coordinated across hundreds of miles. You hear the scrape of your own fingernail in the groove of the wood, a dry, dusty sound that is louder than a scream in the stillness. This is the truth they buried. It's heavy, thick with the scent of drying herbs, peppermint, lavender, and something else, something sharp and bitter that stings your eyes. Below this, there's the sweet, holy smell of beeswax from 100 forbidden candles. But beneath it all, faint and unsettling, is the metallic tang of something burning. Not wood, something else. Your worn leather sandals make no sound on the spiraling stone steps. Down here, the chanting from the chapel above is a dull, hollow drone. The voice of a world that has no idea what lies beneath its feet. The Cathars believe your spirit, the real you, is not a stained and wretched thing. It is a spark of the true divine light, a prisoner of war, trapped in a body of flesh. You are not here to beg for forgiveness. You are here to remember your own divinity. The song now swells, others joining in, a harmony of souls who have been told they are nothing, celebrating the explosive truth that they are everything. This is the heresy of joy. This is the secret that had to be drowned in blood. And in his eyes, you see the only question that matters, the question he has come to have answered, no matter how much of you he has to burn away to get it. Tell me, he says, his voice unnervingly calm. What did you find beneath the temple? Outside these stone walls, a different kind of architecture is taking shape. It isn't built from stone or glass. It's being built from whispers, from stolen books, and from the shared glances of people who are starting to ask the wrong questions. And that structure, that invisible cathedral of rebellion, is a threat that will burn kingdoms to the ground. His church has invented a new system, a brilliant and terrifying legal framework designed for one purpose: to ensure that every acre of land, every cow, every last silver coin flows predictably up the feudal ladder and into their coffers. A woman's property now becomes her husband's. Upon his death, it goes to the eldest son. If there are no sons, it reverts to the Lord or the church itself. Your independence, your ancestral rights are being erased with a prayer. It's a story you recognize in your bones, played out 1,000 years before your time. A soldier, his face blank and stupid in the firelight, heaves another armful of priceless manuscripts onto the blaze. You watch a book of Arab astronomy, its pages filled with star charts more accurate than anything the church possesses, curl into a black fist before vanishing in a shower of orange sparks. You've never seen a toothbrush. You believe demons live in fog. Your town blames goats for the plague. Welcome to the Middle Ages. But what they don't want you to know, the secret that burns hotter than this fire, is that ignorance isn't an accident. It's an industry. You press yourself against the rough, splintered wood of the old bridge post, the damp cold seeping through your thin tunic, a stark reminder of how close to the edge you are. Your fingers, numb and clumsy, trace the grooves in the wood, searching. And then you feel it. A single, straight line, carved deep. Relief washes over you, so potent it almost brings you to your knees. It's not a prayer for safe passage, it's a promise. The line is straight and true. A safe house, a bed of straw, perhaps a heel of bread. The thing they found in the monastery basement wasn't a demon. It was a library, and what they don't want you to know is that this library held a power more dangerous to the church than any devil they could imagine. You are Brother Thomas, and your knuckles are white as you grip the cold iron ring of the trapdoor. The air that rises to meet you is wrong. It isn't the familiar smell of damp stone and rat droppings. They are called the Cathars, the pure ones, and they believe the world you see, the one with its mud and its plagues and its gold-encrusted bishops, was not made by a good God. It is a prison, a corrupt cage created by a lesser evil power. The church, with its opulent hierarchy and its obsession with material wealth, is the ultimate proof of that corruption. 99% of people believe the church's greatest fear was a rival god. The truth is far more terrifying to them. They feared a different definition of humanity. But this is different. This is the fear of having your mind unmade, of having the truth scoured from your soul with hot iron. The heavy oak door groans open. The man who stands there is not a brother. His robes are the color of a starless night. He doesn't carry a sword. He carries a small leather roll, which he unfurls to reveal a dozen blades, hooks, and pliers of exquisitely crafted steel. He looks at you, not as a man, but as a locked box he is eager to open. You stumble back towards the great doors, your body still humming with that unnatural vibration, the grotesque faces of the gargoyles burned into your mind. Pushing open the heavy oak, you spill out into the muddy street, into the chaotic symphony of life and filth and freedom. The sunlight is thin but real. The air stinks, but it's the smell of the living. You feel you've escaped the stone trap, that you've left the architecture of fear behind you. But that's the final secret they don't want you to understand. For generations, your people have practiced unions like this, partnerships that gave women rights and autonomy. Far to the south, in the mountains of France, archaeologists have found the proof they tried to burn. Marriage contracts from so-called heretical communities that grant a woman equal share of all property. Contracts that give her the power to dissolve the union if she is wronged. It is a world of balance they are here to shatter. This man in black is not a holy messenger. He is a corporate raider, executing a hostile takeover of the family itself. The book in your hands has no words, and that is why reading it is punishable by death. The heat cooks the tears onto your face as you watch the pyre. It's not wood that's burning, it's history. It's medicine. It's the thoughts of 1,000 dead minds turning to smoke and ash. The smell is like nothing else. The acrid tang of scorched leather bindings, the dry, greasy stink of melting beeswax, and underneath it all, the sweet, sickening perfume of burning parchment, the cooked skin of a sheep. This is the smell of annihilation. That simple symbol, dismissed by historians as a folkloric charm or Mason's mark, was never meant for them. It was meant for you, and tonight, it means the difference between breathing tomorrow or being food for the crows. Your lungs burn with the ice of the night air, each gasp a ragged tear in the silence. The sound of dogs, distant but hungry, is the only prayer you have. They are hunting, and you are the fox. It was about protecting a monopoly. Their secret wasn't just skill. It was a philosophy that viewed the body as a system to be healed, not a soul to be purged. And that philosophy led them to create something that could shatter the medieval world. A secret pharmacopoeia, a written catalog of plant-based medicines so potent, its very existence was the most dangerous heresy of all. He said your soul was stained from the moment you drew breath, a debt you could never repay, a filth you could only hope to wash clean through obedience and suffering. The church's greatest weapon wasn't the sword, it was the concept of original sin. They taught you that you were worthless and that only they held the keys to your salvation. But here, under the watchful eyes of the stars, they tell you a different story. A secret. The devout scientist who finds proof that refutes the dogma of his institution. You were the blade of the church, but you saw what was written on the handle, and for that, you must be broken. The scrape of a key in the lock grinds through the silence. It's an awful metallic sound, like a fingernail being slowly peeled from its bed. Your heart hammers against your ribs, a frantic bird trapped in a cage of bone. You thought you knew fear. You faced it in the charge, the scream of arrows, the sight of a Saracen's curved blade. And it is the medieval version of the world you live in now. Think of the endless, dopamine-draining scroll of a social media feed. Algorithms designed to keep you agitated and engaged. Think of the 24-hour news cycle, engineered to stoke your anxiety and make you feel that the world is collapsing without their guidance. They are all just cathedrals of a different kind, architecture designed to manage your emotions, bypass your critical thinking, and foster a quiet, desperate compliance. The technology has changed, but the art of control is timeless. You feel a desperate need for air, for escape. You feel your partner's hand tighten on yours, a desperate anchor in a sudden storm. There is only one true marriage, he proclaims, his voice rising, echoing off the trees that have witnessed your people's vows for 1,000 years. A sacrament sealed within the holy walls of a church, a union blessed by God and governed by his laws on earth. And here is the secret 99% of people will never learn. The truth buried under centuries of incense and sermons. This isn't about your soul, it's about your soil, but the knowledge it protects. That is the only thing that can offer us a world free from their darkness. Your hand closes around the forgery, the lie, the hope. The road ahead is long, and for the first time, you understand you are carrying something far more valuable and infinitely more dangerous than the bone of any saint. A symbol you've seen before, scratched into the mud and wattle wall of a peasant's hut, carved into the handle of a stolen wood axe. A crude, chilling mark, the peasant's mark. What is a symbol of the dirt poor, the forgotten, the brutally oppressed, doing on a piece of heresy that could shatter the heavens? The conspiracy you thought you understood just fractured, revealing a deeper, darker abyss beneath. The stars above feel impossibly far away, but the danger is right here, on this parchment, connecting the highest secrets of the cosmos to the blood-soaked soil of the common man. It couldn't be monetized by the nascent medical establishment, and it challenged the church's monopoly on healing through prayer. So they launched a smear campaign that has lasted 800 years. They burned the books and the healers. They invented the caricature of the cackling witch with her bubbling cauldron, transforming a skilled pharmacist into a devil worshipper. The words quack and charlatan were not descriptions. They were weapons of economic and informational warfare, the same way legacy industries today use lobbying and media to discredit cheaper, more effective technologies that threaten their power. It was never about saving souls. Here, in this secret cathedral of trees, they are not chanting prayers for forgiveness. They are singing. A woman's voice rises, pure and clear, weaving a melody that feels older than the stones of Rome. You can hear the soft, wet click of her tongue against her teeth as she forms the Occitan words, a language made for rebellion. The song isn't about sin or penitence. It's about joy. A radical, defiant joy. In the cold stone church in your village, the priest told you that you were born broken. Your testimony, the words they beat out of you, will be sealed by the church, hidden in the Vatican's deepest archive for 700 years. A time bomb of ink and parchment. They didn't destroy the Templars for heresy. They destroyed you to contain an information leak. It's the timeless story, the one that repeats in every century. When the most loyal enforcers of an organization stumble upon a truth that contradicts its very existence, they cease to be assets. They become threats. The loyal soldier who discovers the war is based on a lie. Your priest tells you they ward off evil, but that is a lie for children. Their true purpose is to stare at you. They are a constant, terrifying reminder of the demonic world of jagged teeth and tearing claws that waits just outside these sacred walls. A world you will surely fall into without the church's protection. You can almost hear the wet scrape of their claws on the stone at night, a promise of the damnation that awaits the disobedient. This is a prison for your mind, a carefully constructed arena of sensory and emotional manipulation. He wears the dark robes of the new faith, a silver cross hanging at his chest like a judgment. He wasn't invited. This pagan ritual, the priest's voice cuts through the stunned silence, thin and sharp as a shard of ice, is a sinful blasphemy in the eyes of the one true God. His gaze sweeps over the hand-fasting ribbon, the simple food laid out on blankets, the faces of your family, and he sees only heresy. The metallic taste of fear floods your mouth, coppery and vile. He pushes the hollow bone into your hand. It feels warm now, almost alive with the weight of the future it holds. Take it to the scriptorium at Jumièges, he says, his good eye locking onto yours with an unnerving intensity. Ask for the man who illuminates the dragons, but listen to me. He leans closer, the stench of sour wine and fear on his breath. They know one of our couriers was taken last week. The Baron's men will be watching the roads. This seed is a death sentence if they find it on you. You heard the abbot's hollow eulogy, a warning disguised as a prayer. They didn't die from accidents or fevers. They died of knowledge, the same knowledge that is now staining your soul. Alkin's finger, gnarled and frail, drifts to the bottom corner of the celestial map. Your eyes follow. You expect a signature, a date, perhaps a prayer for salvation. But what you see makes the cold in the bell tower feel like a furnace. It's a symbol that doesn't belong here, amidst the Latin and the precise astronomical lines. You feel the metallic taste of fear in your mouth as she brings the obsidian to your loved one's head. There is no brutal sawing. There is only a precise, patient scraping, a sound like a fingernail dragging slowly across stone, controlled and terrifyingly delicate. She understands nerve blocks, using pressure points the official physicians dismissed as peasant superstition. This isn't butchery, this is an art, and that is why it had to be destroyed. This decentralized, effective healthcare couldn't be controlled. The most dangerous weapon ever forged in the Middle Ages wasn't a sword, it was a song. You are deep in the forests of Languedoc, where the trees are so thick they blot out God's moon. The air is cold enough to make ghosts of your breath, smelling of pine needles and damp ancient earth. A ring of flickering torches pushes back the darkness, painting the faces around you in liquid gold and dancing shadow. These are the faces of weavers, farmers, poets, and knights, and they are all heretics. They are all condemned to die. You think of Jacques, his eyes wide as he read the translation for the first time. You think of Geoffrey, who argued it was a trick of the devil, before slowly, night after night, coming to see the logic in its geometry, the truth in its forgotten philosophy. Jacques died of a fever a year after the order was dissolved, his body swollen and black. Geoffrey fell from his horse, his neck snapping with a sound, they said, like dry kindling. You are the only one left, small, an insect crawling on the floor of a giant's tomb, utterly insignificant and powerless. You try to find your way, but the labyrinthine layout turns you around. Aisles lead to chapels that lead to dead ends. You are deliberately disoriented, lost, a child in a dark forest, and the only one who can guide you out wears the robes of the church. You are being taught dependency, one confusing step at a time. Now, look at the walls. High above, carved into the stone, the gargoyles leer down. They are not decoration. The village elder, his face a map of seasons you've known your whole life, has just declared you bound, one to the other, by the old ways. Your land joins his land. Your goats will graze with his goats. It is a partnership, a promise witnessed by the ancient stones and the watching trees. It is real. Then you hear it. Not a sound at first, but a shift in the air. The laughter in the clearing dies like a snuffed candle. A shadow falls over you, long and black, cast not by a cloud, but by a man. Anything that gives a starving village power over its own survival is a direct threat to the throne and the altar. The one-eyed man finally speaks, his voice a dry rasp, like stones scraping together. "The silver you paid is dust," he whispers. "The food this seed will grow, that is real. That food pays for the ink. It buys the silence of librarians. It keeps the candles lit in places that do not officially exist. The secret libraries, the true purpose of this entire underground economy, the reason for all the risk. The men who control the present will always try to control the past, and they do it by strangling the future in its crib." "Brother Thomas," Alcuin whispers, his voice a dry rasp. "He slipped from this very tower on a clear night." He points a trembling finger to the gaping archway beside you, where the great bell hangs silent, and Sigebert, a sudden fever in the scriptorium. They said his mind had been corrupted by vanity. You knew them both. You saw their bodies wrapped in burial shrouds. You can hear the soft, wet rasp of her fingers packing sphagnum moss around the area, a natural antiseptic that will keep the wound clean. This is the hidden truth of the barber surgeon's blade, not the one from the gruesome paintings, but the one that worked. Skeletal remains, recently analyzed and long ignored, show a reality that is simply impossible according to the official histories. An astonishing 70% survival rate for trepanation, drilling into the living skull, not in the bright, clean halls of the universities, but here in the secret cellars of the folk healers. It's the hope in your own heart. They can burn your field, they can salt the earth, but the final piece of this puzzle isn't in a forbidden book or a secret crop. It's in the one place they thought they had absolute control, the human soul, and that is a harvest they will learn to fear. You charged into battle with his name on your lips, the iron cross of your sword hilt biting into your palm, all while the words from that scroll echoed in your skull. A dangerous prayer, a secret gospel. You and your brothers became the most powerful men in Christendom, not just because you were bankers and warriors. 99% of people will never know the real reason for your power. You were guardians, not of a relic, but of an idea so powerful it could dismantle an empire of faith. You don't just hear the choirs chant, you feel a deep, unsettling thrumming inside your ribs, a physical manifestation of a power so immense it feels like the world is ending. It's a frequency known to induce a cocktail of profound dread, shivering anxiety, and a strange, weeping ecstasy. Your heart rate quickens, your palms sweat. You are having a physical reaction you cannot control, and you call it God. Look up. The stone columns soar, stretching into an infinite, vaulted gloom. They are not designed to draw your eyes to heaven. They are designed to make you feel crushed. The ring on your finger isn't a symbol of love. It's the cold iron of a cage being locked, and you have just realized you are inside. What they don't want you to know is that this cage wasn't built to protect you. It was built to protect your property from you. The ribbon around your wrist still feels warm. It's the color of the late summer sky, woven by your mother, just as her mother wove one for her. His hand is in yours, calloused and strong. A splinter from the true cross, sold to a credulous knight in Cologne, might contain a rolled-up diagram for a more efficient water wheel, a secret that could free a village from generations of back-breaking labor. The tears of Mary in a glass vial might be a tincture that can stop a child's fever, something the local priest calls a demonic possession. This is economic warfare, fought in the shadows of cathedrals. This is intellectual resistance. The powerful demand control over what you believe, what you build, and what you are allowed to know. Anything that bypasses their authority is heresy. This parchment doesn't just move the earth, it moves the seat of God Himself. And for that, the Inquisition will not just kill you, they will erase you. They will burn your body, your work, and your name until you are less than smoke. It's the same timeless tactic of power. A truth is only welcome if it reinforces the throne. Think of the truths we bury today. Research on a dying climate, locked away in forgotten databases. Studies on industrial poisons defunded and dismissed. In her fingers, she holds not a clumsy metal saw, but a shard of obsidian, its edge honed to a single molecule, far sharper than any steel forged in this age. You watch her dip it into a bowl of dark red wine, sterilizing it with an understanding of unseen poisons that the official doctors would call witchcraft. 99% of people don't know that the deadliest thing in a medieval operating theater wasn't the blade. It was the surgeon's unwashed hands. This woman knows. This knowledge is a death sentence if discovered, and you, on your knees in the 13th century mud, are breaking their ancient chain. A twig snaps in the woods. Your heart seizes in your chest, a frantic bird trapped against your ribs. You freeze, every muscle screaming. Is it a fox, or is it the watchman? They burned a woman in the next village for conjuring unnatural abundance from the earth. Her crime was a garden that flourished while others failed. Your crime is the same. But as you wait in the suffocating silence, you realize the seed of this rebellion isn't just the bean in the soil. The parchment was brittle, the ink faded, but the words were a key. A key that unlocked a door in your mind, a door you never knew was there. And on the other side, not a demon, but a history of the world so different, so much older and stranger than the one the priests preached from their pulpits, that it cracked the very foundations of your faith. You can almost feel the phantom weight of the cross on your tunic, the red cloth a brand over your heart. For years, you lived the lie, but 99% of people who stand here see art. They were meant to see a weapon. Then the music begins. It starts not as a sound, but as a vibration in the soles of your worn leather shoes, traveling up your legs, into the hollow of your chest. The great organ exhales a single, impossibly low note. This is the secret they buried in the blueprints, the truth that modern acoustic modeling has only recently unearthed. These structures are not just halls, they are instruments, engineered to produce specific low-frequency sounds, infrasound, that bypass reason. It was intertwined with a secret that was far more intimate, far more personal, and 1,000 times more threatening to their world. Your beliefs about who and how you were allowed to love. But something else, something older and far more dangerous, has hijacked their system of greed. An invisible network that calls itself the Silent College. They turned this river of desperate faith into an encrypted network, the medieval version of using a hidden server to share files the state has banned. They use the endless, shuffling flow of pilgrims as human cover to move medicine, information, and revolutionary technology across a fractured, ignorant continent. A small, insignificant ball of mud and water, demoted from the throne of creation to just another wanderer in an endless, silent void. This isn't just astronomy. It is a weapon. If the Earth is not the center of the universe, then Rome is not the center of the world. If humanity is not the focus of all creation, then the Pope is not God's chosen regent. The entire pyramid of power, from the king on his throne to the bishop in his cathedral, is built on the foundation of that geocentric lie. The Church called it demonic, an unholy block on the suffering God ordained for mankind. Here, in the flickering lamplight, it is simply mercy. Your loved one lies on the table, their breathing shallow but calm, their eyes closed not in terror, but in a heavy, dreamless slumber. The woman leaning over them is not a university-trained physician. She has no fancy robes, no Latin phrases to justify her failures. Her hands, however, are steadier than any priest's. They are a map of forbidden knowledge. It means when his tithe collectors come, your true harvest will be hidden. It means you don't need the Church's blessing to fill your children's bellies. Independence is the most terrifying heresy of all, because a man who can feed himself cannot be easily controlled. It's the same way, centuries from now, that corporations will patent the very seeds of life and sue farmers for saving them, crushing regenerative practices that threaten their monopoly on the global food supply. They don't sell a product, they sell dependence. You've heard the whispers from the guards that you and your brothers spat on the cross, that you kissed the leering face of a goat-headed idol named Baphomet. A convenient lie. A simple, ugly story for a world that cannot handle the complex, terrifying beauty of the truth. The real sin wasn't what you worshipped. The sin was what you read. Your hand trembles as you remember. Not a chalice, not the bones of a saint. It was a scroll sealed in a clay jar, hidden deep beneath the ruins of Solomon's temple. Your town blames goats for the plague. Welcome to the Middle Ages. The immense wooden doors groan shut behind you, the sound echoing into a darkness that the light can't conquer. 100,000 candles could burn in here and still not reach the ceiling. A man-made heaven of shadow and stone. Your eyes struggle to adjust. Light, fractured into 1,000 shards of blood red and soul blue, bleeds through the stained glass windows, painting silent. Screaming stories on the floor. It's beautiful. It's meant to be. It's the same blueprint used to shatter indigenous cultures across the globe for centuries. They burned your longhouses, not just to take your land, but to burn the very idea of your society from human memory. Because an idea is more dangerous than any army. The idea that people can govern themselves, that God doesn't choose kings, that a woman's voice is equal to a man's. This was the great social heresy. But it was only the beginning of their fear. What they don't want you to know is that 97% of the medieval economy you read about in books is a fantasy. A fairy tale for serfs and kings. The real wealth, the real engine of change, wasn't in gold. It was in these forgeries. A massive, sophisticated black market thriving on a currency of forbidden hope. 99% of people will never learn the truth. The Church publicly damns the trade in false relics as the highest form of sin, while its own bishops grow fat on the profits, taking a silent, heavy cut of every transaction. The sound is like dry leaves skittering across a grave. Shh. A sound that begs for silence. And there it is, the map that could burn the world. It isn't a map of Earth. It's a map of God's mind, and it is wrong. Or rather, it reveals how wrong they are. In the center is not the familiar blue and green sphere of our world, but a blazing, magnificent sun. And circling it, like moths to a flame, are the planets: Mercury, Venus, and there, the third rock from the star, is Earth. They want you to picture the screaming. They want you to imagine the filth, the butcher's saw cracking against bone, the inevitable gangrene. This is the official story, the one written by the victors. But you are not in their lecture hall. You are here, in the damp quiet of a root cellar, and the air is thick with a smell that is both sweet and sick, the scent of boiled willow bark. This is the first secret they don't want you to know. There was anesthesia. The bean, in turn, will pull life from the very air, fixing it into the soil, feeding the corn in a way the church calls demonic. They teach you to pray for abundance. This technique makes it. Archaeological analysis of fossilized pollen from settlements like yours, settlements later burned for heresy, has confirmed it. They were using companion planting techniques that could triple a harvest. This wasn't ignorance. This was suppressed genius. This simple act is the most dangerous rebellion you can imagine. It means you don't need the Lord's exhausted land next year. 3 knights knew the truth. 2 are already in the ground, their mouths filled with dirt and secrets. You are the 3rd. The candle flame shivers, and your shadow, a monstrous, stooped thing, writhes on the cold stone wall. You press your forehead against the stone, its chill a poor imitation of the cold dread that has lived in your bones for 20 years. It has been there since that day in the dust and heat of Jerusalem, when you found what you were not supposed to find. They call you a heretic, a devil worshiper. The secret isn't in what you see, it's in what you feel. They tell you Gothic cathedrals were built to inspire awe in God, but the forbidden truth is that their design was a masterclass in psychological warfare. You step inside, and the sudden cold is a physical shock, a ghost breath on the back of your neck. The air is heavy, thick with the smell of old stone, beeswax, and something else, the faint, metallic scent of fear, collected over centuries. You've never seen a toothbrush. You believe demons live in fog. Justice isn't about punishment, but about restoring balance to the community. Women are not property. They are leaders, thinkers, and voices on the council. This entire way of life is a poison arrow aimed at the heart of the feudal world, a world built on the lie that some men are born to rule and all others are born to kneel. That is why they must destroy you. It's a tactic as old as power itself. First, you misrepresent. You call their social structures savage, their beliefs pagan, their equality a threat to God's own order. Then you justify extermination. This is the moment of truth. The one-eyed man watches your face, not the relic. With a fingernail, you trace a nearly invisible seam running the length of the bone. You twist. It opens with a faint, dry click. It's hollow. Inside, there are no holy ashes, no sacred dust. There are seeds, a dozen of them, tiny, dark, and utterly profane in this holy place. Seeds for a strain of wheat that doesn't wither in the summer blight. Forbidden agricultural knowledge, stolen from the sun-scorched libraries of Cordoba, a city of learning the church wishes everyone would simply forget. Alcuin reaches into a thick, leather-bound book of Psalms. But his fingers don't turn the vellum pages. They find a hidden seam. With the delicate precision of a surgeon, he pries the cover back to reveal a hollowed-out space within. Inside rests a rolled parchment, tied with a simple leather thong. Your heart hammers against your ribs, a frantic drumbeat in the cathedral of the night. This is it, the culmination of a decade of secret observations, of calculations scribbled on scraps and burned before matins. He unrolls it on the cold stone floor. You will learn that the people you were taught to pity were the last guardians of a forbidden legacy. If you love immersive, real storytelling about survival, belief, and forgotten lives, hit like and subscribe. It helps more than you know. Drop a comment with the medieval fact that surprised you most, or what role you think you'd play if you were born in the year 1287. Let's begin and live the life they never got to finish. But be warned, some truths about the past are harder to forget than others. But you have listened to the whispers of the silent college, the knowledge passed down from grandmother to grandchild, the wisdom of the lost city. 99% of people believe medieval famine was an act of God. The truth is, it was an act of control. The knowledge to feed everyone existed, but it was branded as witchcraft. You press a corn seed into the soil. Then, right beside it, you push in a bean. You are creating a forbidden guild, a secret society of plants. The corn will grow tall, providing a stalk for the bean to climb. It's a map of the deep earth, with glowing lines connecting dozens of these hidden cities across the continent. A secret, illuminated web of knowledge beneath a world of enforced ignorance. And you see with a jolt of ice in your veins that one of the nodes on the map, a city deep beneath Rome itself, is no longer glowing. It's dark. And a thin, red line is slowly, like a crack in glass, snaking its way from that dead city toward your new home. You, the midwife who knows his family's secret shame, are that problem. And you know, with a certainty that freezes the marrow in your bones, that problems like you are not permitted to live long enough to tell their stories. Just last year, archaeologists pulled a man from a Danish bog, his body preserved for 1,000 years. In the pouch at his belt, they found no coins. They found these tokens. Physical proof of the heresy the church and the nobility tried to erase from time itself. They called your people barbarians. It's a convenient lie. They tell you that history is a ladder, with their feudalism a step above your primitive ways. But you look around this longhouse and you see something they cannot comprehend. A world without masters. Property is shared. He just watches your hands, making sure they're empty before he slides a small lead box across the splintered crate that serves as his table. The weight of it feels wrong in your palm. Too light for God, too heavy for a simple lie. Your fingers, stained with dirt and fear, tremble slightly as you lift the lid. The sound is a dull, metallic scrape, like a tomb groaning open after centuries. Inside, on a bed of faded, moth-eaten velvet, lies what is supposed to be the finger bone of Saint Denis. It's yellowed, cracked, and perfect. Too perfect. A single word carried on the wind could be your death warrant. The stones around you have ears, and the God they preach about below seems to have eyes everywhere. 99% of people will live and die believing the earth is the center of everything. They believe it because the church tells them it is so. God placed humanity on his divine stage, and the heavens, the sun, the moon, the stars revolve around us in a perfect celestial ballet. It is a comforting lie. It makes you feel important, chosen. The truth feels like falling. They called it heresy, but it was information warfare. They built a mountain of lies over it and called it the Dark Ages, a term invented to obscure the light they worked so hard to extinguish. This is the same tactic used today when inconvenient truths are buried and grassroots movements are labeled as dangerous. The powerful have always known, to control the present, you must own the past. Over the next hour, we will unearth the fragments of this lost world. We will decode the secrets the powerful buried. In one hand, you clutch a small pouch of corn seeds, blessed by the priest, permitted by the Lord. In the other, hidden in the folds of your tunic, is the real treasure, the crime. You feel the dry, papery rattle of bean seeds in your palm, a sound that could cost you your life. The priest calls it unnatural alchemy. The Lord's steward calls it a threat to the order of things. They preach that God ordained the three-field system, leaving one vast stretch of earth barren and sleeping each year, a tithe of land to the heavens. As you walk, you realize the fear you felt on the stairs is gone, replaced by a profound sense of awe and of belonging. You've spent your life on the surface, living in a world of superstition, where demons lived in fog and goats were blamed for the plague. You were told the earth was flat and the sky was the only thing to hope for. But here, you see a map carved into a vast stone table in the center of the archive. It's not a map of France or of Christendom, but as you sever the cord, a different kind of chill spreads through your bones, one that has nothing to do with the castle's damp. You have not just delivered a child, you have delivered a verdict on his entire family. The lord of the castle enters, his face a mask of feigned piety as he thanks God. He looks at his son, then at you, and in the depths of his eyes, you don't see gratitude, you see a calculation. A problem has been solved, but another, more dangerous one has just been created. This is the social contract they didn't want you to read. Here, you are not a subject. You are a voice. You own a small, carved token of bone, smooth from use. It feels cool in your palm. When a decision must be made about a harvest, a dispute, a journey, the tokens are collected. Not in a show of hands for a lord to see and judge, but in a quiet leather pouch where each vote is equal. It's the sound of true power, not the clang of a sword, but the soft, anonymous click of bone against bone. Hundreds of souls press in, their prayers a frantic, buzzing hum, their coins clinking with the hollow sound of debased silver. They are buying salvation, a piece of a saint, a splinter of the cross to ward off the encroaching darkness. You are here to buy something else entirely. The man before you has one good eye. The other is a puckered, milky scar, a story you know better than to ask about. He doesn't speak. The only light comes from the pinpricks of a million distant stars, channeled through a strange, forbidden device of polished brass and a lens ground from Venetian glass. A secret smuggled from the lost city they whisper about in Alexandria. The air smells of cold iron, old wax, and the metallic tang of terror. Brother Alcuin, his face a roadmap of wrinkles carved by sleepless nights, gestures for you to come closer. His breath is a white plume in the freezing air. He doesn't speak. He can't risk it. Archaeologists are now finding it etched into the hearthstones of forgotten homes, sewn into burial shrouds from France to Poland. The silent, chilling evidence of a continent-wide rebellion of knowledge that official history refuses to discuss. This network, dismissed as folklore, was the last remnant of a world of understanding that was systematically dismantled. The church and nobility couldn't allow a populace that could heal itself, that could read the stars without dogma, or organize itself by ancient, cooperative principles. They needed you reliant, fearful, blind. The campaign to demonize this wisdom was absolute. They lied about the past. They buried the truth under a millennium of fear. What else are they lying about right now? The secret to surviving the winter isn't prayer. It's a crime punishable by fire. The moon is a sliver of bone, and you are on your knees in the cold, wet earth. Your fingers are numb, plunging into the dark soil of the forbidden field, the one tucked behind the old stones, where the Lord's reeve never looks. The night air is thick with the smell of damp soil and your own fear, a metallic taste on the back of your tongue. This is a truth that completely shatters the myth of the Dark Ages. It wasn't dark. The light was just hidden, kept safe by people who knew that what is visible is often a carefully constructed stage. It's the modern equivalent of discovering that your entire city has a secret subway system, used by a shadow population living a richer, more advanced life right under your feet. Your guide leads you towards the largest structure, the Grand Archive. The witch hunts are not a war against Satan. They are a purge of inconvenient data. Hours pass. The candle gutters, its wax pooling like a pale tear. The only sounds are the lady's ragged breaths and the frantic scrape of your own fingernails against the rough-hewn wood of the birthing stool as you support her. Then a sound cuts through the oppressive silence, a thin, wet wail, a gasp of new life. The room explodes in relieved whispers. A boy, an heir. The lady weeps, her tears finally tasting of joy, not salt and failure. The air is thick with the smell of wood smoke, roasting meat, and damp earth. A great fire pit in the center of the longhouse throws dancing shadows against the timber walls, illuminating the faces of the council. There is no throne here, no crown. The person who speaks is a woman, her hair streaked with gray, her hands calloused from a lifetime of work. She holds no scepter, only the respect of those who listen. Beside her sits a man whose knuckles are scarred from mending nets. They are elders, not rulers. The official history is a carefully constructed cage. They tell you the medieval world ran on feudal obligation and the king's silver, the simple, brutal system of power and piety. It is a convenient lie, a story told to hide the most powerful currency of the last 1,000 years. You are here, in the gut of a pilgrim's market outside Rouen, and the air itself is a currency of desperation. It smells of unwashed bodies, holy incense, and the faint, sweet perfume of decay. 3 men knew the truth about the heavens. 2 of them were already in the ground, their deaths ruled as accidents. You are the 3rd. The wind has teeth tonight. It bites through the wool of your tunic and gnaws at your bones, a physical manifestation of the fear coiling in your gut. You're perched at the highest point of the monastery, in a clandestine observatory hidden within the bell tower. Below, the brothers sleep in their cells, their dreams untroubled by heresy. But up here, you are committing a sin so profound it has no name. You huddle on the dirt floor, the rasp of your grandmother's breathing, the only sound besides the drip of rain through the sodden thatch. Her skin is like old parchment, her eyes clouded. The local priest has already branded her a witch for her knowledge of herbs. Before her last breath rattles in her chest, she presses a small, strangely carved wooden token into your hand. Her whisper is a dry rustle of leaves. The city where the blind can see. That symbol, this mark, is the key. The tools just changed. The book burners are now algorithm programmers, sanitizing reality one line of code at a time. The inquisitors are now the self-appointed fact-checkers for inconvenient truths. The lost cities being erased today are the free corners of the internet, the independent voices, the inconvenient data that challenges the official story. The story of the Silent College is a warning flare sent across 1,000 years. It is proof that no matter how loud the propaganda, the human spirit's need to know, to share, and to be free can survive in the shadows, waiting. Because if a man can feed himself, he no longer needs a master. And a man with no master is the most terrifying thing in the world to a king. The hum you felt in the stairs is stronger here, a palpable energy coming from vents in the floor that release warm, geothermal air, keeping the city from the chill of the deep earth. This is where the forbidden knowledge lives. The medical texts from Cordoba, detailing anatomy the church calls blasphemy. The Roman engineering principles that allow for aqueducts to carry fresh water through the city's heart. The philosophical treatises from Greece that argue for a world governed by reason, not by fear. This is the world's secret library, its hidden brain, surviving in the planet's skull. Your 90% success rate with these hopeless births is not a miracle. It is a data point. It is evidence. Evidence that the nobility, in their quest for concentrated power, have poisoned their own lineage. To know the secret weakness of the ruling class, to prove their divine right is built on a foundation of genetic decay, this is the ultimate heresy. It's no different from the modern whistleblower, silenced for exposing the rot deep inside a government or a corporation. The names change, but the crime remains the same. Telling a truth the powerful cannot afford to have told. They want you to believe that freedom was a gift handed down from a king to his barons on a muddy field in England. The Magna Carta. It's a clean, safe story for the history books. But 99% of people never learn the truth buried in the peat bogs of Denmark. The truth they systematically exterminated. The truth is that democracy was not a gift from above. It was a fire that burned from below, and they did everything in their power to stamp it out. You are sitting on a rough-hewn bench, and now you realize the dogs weren't just hunting, they were being led. One that could free the body from pain, and another that could unmoor the soul from the center of the universe. And from the top of the stairs, you hear the heavy, deliberate scrape of a key turning in the lock. 99% of people believe the medieval peasant was a superstitious fool, living a short, brutal life in filth and ignorance. This is a lie, a masterfully crafted piece of propaganda designed to make you feel superior. What they don't want you to know is that this caricature of the ignorant peasant is perhaps the most successful cover-up in human history, built to hide a secret that threatened the very foundations of power. The air in the hut is thick, a damp, heavy blanket of wood smoke, sweat, and wet earth.